Okay. All right, here we go. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Monte, and I'm going to be leading the Multimedia Communications Challenge. This is workshop 2. And today we're going to cover mostly an introduction to Soundtrap and dive deeper into the production process for the audio archive project. So first off, let's start with a check-in and grounding. If you can write your name, your age, pronouns, and for an icebreaker, what's a sound that describes the way you're feeling today? You can put the birds chirping, you could put a song that you've been listening to that really identifies with the way that you're feeling today. Or you can just add a sound effect like rain, water, static, laughter, etc. So drop that in the chat before we get started. And so today we're gonna do some pre-production, some planning for your audio project. Here are some questions that I'd like you all to ask yourselves before you even begin recording. What research will you need to conduct prior to recording? Who do you need to interview for your story? What natural sounds or sound effects will you include to enhance your story? How will you cite your interviews and your sources? And what kind of music fits the mood of your story? Those are questions that we'd like you to ask yourself before you start even writing anything down or recording any audio. So really quickly, I'm gonna talk to you guys about script writing. It's really important to have a script before you start recording. This is a basic outline of the talking points that you're going to say as a narrator or as a host. And also you may include some questions and things that you want to ask your interviewees and your guests. So some tips for script writing are you want to write the way that you talk. This is a key for writing for broadcast. You want to write like you're talking to a friend or a family member, using informal and conversational writing. You want to write up to your strengths, meaning you don't want to sound too academic. You don't want to be very verbose and have a lot of words and long sentences that are hard for you to pronunciate. And as you're writing your script, read out loud. This will help you sound more natural and make sure that you can actually pronunciate the things that are going to be in a part of your script. So the 3 C's of script writing are be clear, be concise, and be creative. You want to be creative in not only the language that you use, but also the storytelling approach as you're creating your story and as you're creating your script. So here's a quick snapshot at what a script looks like here on the right. And there's some key terms that I want to go over very quickly. VO here stands for voiceover. SOT stands for sound on tape or sound bite. That can be your interview or your guest. That's an SOT. And then NATs or natural sound are the sound effects that you may include. So for example, in this story, we wrote and recorded about food and how recipes are connections to your personal and family history. We had natural sounds of boiling water and frying or sizzling on a pan as we were describing these family recipes. Here's a tool that's in your resource drive. This is the script organizer, and this will help you outline your story. As you can see here, there's script vocabulary and a few script examples that are hyperlinked. And this is basically the formula to writing a great script. First, you want to start with an introduction or an anchor lead. This gives the listener a little preview or a taste of what your story is going to be about. Then you'll record narration, and this is usually read by the host. Narration is the same as having a voiceover. And then also you want to have your sound on tape. So that may be your first guest, your first interview, and you'll notice, and then there's narration again. Key part of this is use narration to help move the story forward and transition from interview to whatever additional audio you do have. Narration normally doesn't summarize, but it'll leave a little insight and reflection as to what was the importance of that sound. So here's something that I'd like you guys to do together as a group. This is hyperlink to an audio story, and I'd like you guys to listen to the audio story and follow the script. I'm going to try and hyperlink here, but before I do, this story is all about, as I mentioned, food and how it's used as a pathway to identity and culture. This story talks about family meals and how they can strengthen relationships and help young people understand who they are and where they come from. In this story, we interviewed 3 young middle school students, and they explained 3 regional dishes that were part of their family history. So you'll hear about that. This was produced with KQBH and Boyle Heights Arts Conservatory. So this here will take you to your resource drive, and in module 2 folder, you see both the audio and the actual script. And so this is that same snapshot of the script that you saw earlier, and you'll follow along and listen to the piece. And you guys can hear a few examples of natural sounds of interviews. And this is in both English and Spanish. So just want to kind of point out some little key notes for a script. Also want to note how short an introduction and an outro can be. It's really only about 2 paragraphs for this story. And in full, this story ended up being about 9 minutes. So this gives you a visualization of how much text should go for the actual final product of the audio. Okay. So listen to that example and a few others that were listed in the first slides. And real quickly, I'm just going to go over some voiceover tips. So when you're recording your voiceover, try and remember the following. Be clear, have volume in your voice, speak from your diaphragm and project yourself as much as possible without screaming. You want to pace yourself. I am a naturally fast speaker, so whenever I do a voiceover or record my voice, I always have to remember to pace myself. Also keep in mind to not be monotone and have some type of vocal tone and inflection, meaning you may want to emphasize or even exaggerate certain words to give emphasis on what you're saying. And as mentioned earlier, when you're reading your script, make sure that you have words that you're able to pronunciate. Pronunciation is very key, as well as enunciation, making sure that you can speak clearly and say the whole, enunciate what you're trying to say. All right, so this is Soundtrap. This is the program that you all will be using to record, edit, and finalize your product. So this is a really quick look at Soundtrap and production. I'm going to briefly walk you guys through some of these steps here. So step 1 is to create your account. In your browser, you're going to search soundtrap.com, and let's do it together. So you're going to, in the top right corner, select login. You'll use your school email to create an account. And if you're having some trouble, try creating your account and try step 1 using a different device. So if you're using a Chromebook, try your phone, vice versa. Okay, so here is the landing page for Soundtrap. And as mentioned, you're gonna click over here in this top right and hit login. And I'm gonna log in with my Google account. And here I'm logged in to Soundtrap. Hopefully it's as easy as that for you guys. Sometimes it may be a little difficult, which is why I suggest that you guys go back and try this step with either your Chromebook, a laptop, iPad, or your mobile phone. A key part to learning how to use Soundtrap is reviewing the tutorial videos in the Learn section. So once you're logged in, you'll hit Learn, and there are a whole bunch of different tutorial videos that you guys can check out. Soundtrap is usually Soundtrap can be used for both podcasts and music production. In our case, we'll be using it for podcasting. So there are tutorials about making beats and using instruments. So if you continue to scroll down, you'll see this video here that says audio recording, audio setup, connecting devices and recording. And this is going to give you a better idea of how recording works through Soundtrap. If you wanted to use an external mic or anything like that, this will give you a better sense of how to do so. The next video that I'd like you guys to check out is Studio the Basics. This will give you a good idea as to how the actual studio and composition area is used. And that's going to be really helpful when you're doing the editing and when you're doing the assembly of your project. So let's click Audio Setup and take a quick look at these videos. So for that video, I do want to point out that the easiest way to record is directly through Soundtrap. You don't need to connect any microphone, you don't need to connect any other device. You really just need to simply enter the studio and press record, which I'll walk you all through. And really quickly, the next video I'd like you guys to check out is Studio the Basics. And this is, again, will give you an idea of how to assemble your audio and also how the composition area is used. So let's check this out really quickly. as mentioned before, Soundtrap is used a lot for music production in addition to podcasting. And so that's what some of this video had covered and may not apply to the audio archiving project. However, it is good to get familiar with how Soundtrap really works. So after you go through these learning tutorial videos, in order to start your project, you'll start here in the left section under projects, and you can enter Studio. This will create a brand new project for you. From here, you'll select podcast. And now you guys are entered in the studio. The first thing I suggest that you do is label your project with the following naming convention: school name, project title. Because you're working off of an internet connection, make sure to save your project frequently, and as anytime that you make any new additions or updates and edits to your project, you can hit save here, or you can always hit file and save. Oops, save as. I haven't made any changes yet, so I won't have to save, but save or save as is both right here. So now that we're in the studio, I'm just going to walk you all through a few things so you can get started in this project. Here you'll be adding new tracks. So if you're going to record directly into Soundtrap, you can essentially hit the record button. Once you have a few tracks listed, this is what I really recommend: is you add a voice and microphone track for yourself as the narrator, and you're ready to essentially start recording. Here, the selected input is your computer. Voice settings, there are various settings that you can use and effects if you like. Here we're selected podcast, but you can do tons of really cool effects if you wanted to have it sound like a telephone call, lo-fi, acoustic, etc. But we'll just leave it for podcast. And essentially, as mentioned, you can just press start recording, and as soon as you press that button, you're ready to record. When you're done, you can press stop, and we'll close out of here. And so you have a few seconds of recording already. So I also suggest that you add new tracks for your guests. And so here you can label them and name them. You can name this narrator, which would be the person speaking and hosting the story. You could put guest or guest. And then what I also recommend is you having two more tracks, one for sound effects and one for music. Music is optional. You may or may not want to have music, but if you do, you can add a new track here. And so whichever one you have selected, the R will be highlighted, and that means you're going to be recording in that track. Again, if you wanted to save at this point, you're welcome to save. So you have your track 1 for your voiceover, your narration, track 2 for your guests or your interviews, track 3 for sound effects or natural sounds, and track 4 for music or loops. So if you decide that you wanted to record off of your mobile device or your cell phone or some other recording device, you can always use the voice memo app on your phone. Once you have your voice memo app open, you press this solid red button and you're recording onto your mobile device. If you have an iPhone, you can airdrop it to yourself by pressing these 3 little dots, and you can share and airdrop it or email or message it to your computer. Or if you have an Android, you can text it to yourself, and the voice memo app may look a little slightly different, but it's a free download that you can use on both devices. If you decide to use your mobile device to record, you're going to want to hit import file, and you'll select the MP3 that you just recorded, And so let's say we have this recorded. Now you have a new track with that imported file. So those are just a few different ways. Those are two different ways where you can record your audio. And let's say you didn't want this audio after all, you can click these three dots and hit delete track, or you can hit actually highlight it and delete it. A lot of the keys in Soundtrap are similar to keys that you would use, typical keyboard shortcuts. So Command Z, Command C for copying, Command V for paste. And then you can zoom in and out with Command minus or Command plus sign. And a lot of these keyboard shortcuts are explained in the first tutorial video. So a few more things on how to adjust the audio is if you wanted to remove a part of this audio clip, you can just click down here and drag to the point that you desire to erase. You can also drag this playhead to the point that you want to split an audio clip, and I'm clicking Control click, which is a right click in the audio file, and you can press split region. This will break that into two audio clips. And the reason you may want to do that is maybe there's a long pause, or maybe you wanted to remove the second portion of the clip altogether. So those are a few quick tips on how to cut some audio and how to adjust it. If you wanted to go the next level, you can also press this button here, which says edit. You can fade in and out, reverse. There's a lot more options here. So you can even change your pitch or add more effects. I'll briefly show you one last thing, which is the music portion and sound effects. So if you wanted to add some sort of music or sound effects, you can hit this button that says browse loops. And in here you have a bunch of different selections of things that you can select to narrow down and refine your search. Otherwise, you can always browse the entire library. And with the free trial, you can see which ones are free and which ones are paid. Free trial, I think you have access to about 30% of the library. So let's say you just wanted beats. You can select beats here and select any of the free available tracks. Listen to them here. If you like it, then you can either drag it or you can hit this plus sign. And to play it, I'm dragging my playhead and I'm pressing spacebar. You can just press start recording. And so this is where you're going to assemble all of your beats, all of your voiceovers, all of your guest interviews in this composition area. And if you just wanted sound effects, then you can hit SFX. And there's a bunch of different sound effects that you can scrub through and look for something that fits your story. So let's see what this is. Sound effects of a beach, of a crash, vinyl. So if you're talking about a story that has a record that's playing and you drop the needle on the record, this may be a great sound effect for you. So that's how you would add various tracks, add sound effects and add music. And I think that's probably a good place to just pause for everyone to get a better understanding of how you would use this program. And of course, you want to make sure that you're saving here frequently, because you are working off of an internet connection. And if your internet is spotty, or if you don't have a strong signal, you may not be able to get the latest project because it may have disconnected for whatever reason. So make sure you save frequently. Once you're done, you're going to export your project, which we're not there yet, so we're not going to really go through exporting, but this is where you're going to start and finish your project. Um, in the resource drive, you'll have access to a video that will walk you through some of those steps that I just walked you through. And you guys can always reach out if you have any questions, specific questions regarding editing or anything like that. And I'm gonna pause there for any questions now. I also just want to thank you guys for trying out this project and experimenting with audio. I hope you guys have a lot of fun, and I can't wait to hear your stories.